The third process is determine budget. It is the process of aggregating the estimated costs of individual activities or work packages to establish an authorized cost baseline. We have just completed calculating the activity cost estimates, so now we can add them all up or aggregate them into work packages and roll them up to higher WBS levels. In other words, at the control account level and then all the way up to the total project level to establish an authorized cost baseline. This baseline will now be used to monitor and control project performance. Think about how accurate your budget will be by going through this detailed process. Amazing, isn't it? Let's now look at the key ITTOs for this process. Some of the key inputs for the determine budget process are as follows. Scope baseline, which includes the project scope statement, the WBS, and the WBS dictionary. Activity cost estimates are a key input in this process. The budget is really the aggregation of all the activity cost estimates. The more accurate we can be with the estimates, the more accurate the budget estimation will be. Basis of estimates. That is, the details that support the activity cost estimates. It's important for the individual developing the budget to understand the assumptions made and be able to review and understand the logic behind them. Project schedule is important here because it shows when the activities are scheduled and when money will be spent. Resource calendars show when resources will be available to work on the project, so we can allocate resource costs over the duration of the project. Risk register will help provide information about the risks we have identified on the project and how to aggregate the risk response costs. The key tool and technique we use in the determine budget process is cost aggregation. I mentioned this briefly before. In order to estimate overall project costs, you aggregate or add up the activity cost estimates for all activities or work packages to derive an approved cost baseline for the entire project. The technique we use to do this is called cost aggregation. Just imagine that this would be an aggravating and time-consuming effort. Reserve analysis, another tool and technique, can establish both the contingency reserves and the management reserves for the project. We discussed this earlier, but it's also a tool and technique in this process, so here's some additional information. The summation or aggregation of the activity cost estimates are added to the contingency reserve to give you your cost baseline for the project. The cost baseline is the one that is used for tracking and monitoring, including earned value management calculations. The cost baseline added to the management reserve is called the project budget. This is the maximum amount of money that the company commits to spend on the project. In this process, the activity cost estimates are added up or aggregated into work packages and rolled up to higher WBS levels, in other words, control accounts. And ultimately, they are rolled up all the way to the project cost level. The cost baseline, which is the key output for this process, is the approved version of the time phase project budget, excluding any management reserves, and it can be changed only through formal change control procedures and is used as a basis for comparison to actual results.